Welcome to the Swimming from Home talk show. I'm here with UNC Associate Head Coach Jack Brown. Jack, I guess first off, if you could just take me through your kind of last few weeks with your team. You guys had conference meets on the men's and women's sides. If you want to, maybe recap that and then kind of tell me how this all escalated for you.
So it was, we came off of both a fantastic women's and men's conference meets. Halfway through the year, we sat down and made some goals with the teams, and the team's goals were on the men's side to finish 7th, and then the women's side was to finish 4th, and we were successful in doing that at both meets. So we met what we were trying to do, and it took some pretty big, achievements to do that and progress. So our men had to double their point total in order to do that. Our women had to move up considerably. And, we were really, really proud with how we finished the year. We kind of looked at it overall, and we were, in terms of the primary 3 events, we were 83% lifetime best on the year, we were really, really pleased with that. So we came off that. We had, over twice as many NCAA qualifiers as we did last year. So we had 11 total between the men and the women, 8 and 3. And so we were really excited. We also did a long course meter time trial that was actually in between the women's and the men's meet. We used it as kind of a stinger for the men getting ready for their meet. And then also the women who just came off their meet went, and we had 8 new trials cuts at that meet, which was really awesome, kind of, especially with some of the women who were exhausted and like, I don't know if I want to do this. And then all of a sudden punched their ticket, which was great. That was done at the Cary pool. And there were a lot of the ACC teams there, which was cool. So, after that, we moved into our last chance and did that and had some great results there, punched, another ticket at that meet for one of our freshmen. And then we came off that and, we found ourselves in the week before women's NCAAs, we found ourselves in spring break. And, campus was empty. Things were really, really slow. And so, after getting some feedback from the team, we decided to pack up the vans for a few days. And we actually went to Wilmington, North Carolina, to the beach and hung out for 3 days and got some sun, or it was 2.5 days, and got some sun, practiced there at UNC Wilmington, and really just had some awesome time to kind of connect and bond with both the men's and the women's team that were there. That was really, really special and really kind of a cool time to get to know them a little bit more as people. We had like an Airbnb for the women, an Airbnb for the men, Airbnb for the coaches. So the teams really got to kind of come together. And, we had, 14 women there. So they were having that environment, 12 women there, but having that environment where they could kind of come together and be in one house, really, I think, was starting to set up the season pretty spectacularly. We came back on Wednesday, and then on Thursday, things kind of started to look pretty bleak. That was when, we started hearing news about the NBA, and then, NHL was to follow that. And then once you kind of knew that pro sports was starting to cancel, you kind of got the idea that this was going to force the hand of everything else. And so, our NCAA swimmers came to us and they said, what do you think? Is it going to get canceled? And we said, this is completely out of our hands. The only thing that we can do right now is control what we can control. And we have to go on as if this is going to happen until we know it's not. And so it was really a lesson in taking things day by day, and just doing the best you can in any one practice. And we were swimming really, really fast. We were ready to do it. And so then, the news came, and we actually found out about halfway through practice. We were in the water when we got the news, and, just in the spirit of being honest with them, we pulled them out and just said, we're not going to finish today's practice. You guys need to know it would be completely ridiculous of us to keep them in the water for another hour, knowing that, the ACC's pulled out. And it's like, okay, so, it's kind of like that wouldn't have been good. So, initially we really worked to find a time to have them have their final opportunity to swim. And we were going to do kind of an unofficial time trial at our pool. But with some reflection as a coaching staff, and also the fact that one of our swimmers was sick, not with corona, but had been sick. And then we had another swimmer who had kind of interacted with some people who had it. or had her family had interacted with some people who had it, we decided that we weren't going to go through with that, which was a really, really hard thing. It was very touch and go, where the information we were getting, every 5 minutes was changing. And, I was really grateful to the team because they were really resilient. They actually came in the next day after all this was canceled, and they wanted the chance to go again. They were like, we want to see what we can do. And that was really cool. The hard part for about 6 of our women is that they didn't even shave for conference because they had already punched their ticket in November. And so, including one senior who, she shaved for conference, but was not fully rested. And, that opportunity for her is kind of gone forever, and that's what really, really hurts. And I really, really feel for her. And, but for the others, I do feel for them as well, but at least they get another chance next year. And so, but, in perspective, our team had grown so much this year, from where we believe that they kind of started, and their belief in our process that we set out to them and how much they engaged in it. And it's so hard because we got to the end of the season and we don't have that final data point. And that final data point is so important because it really kind of informs where you need to go from here. It's like, it informs what worked well, what didn't work. It informs kind of, what your team's like at a big championship meet. How much more, team building do you need, or do we need to work on our anxiety at big meets or stuff like that? And the other thing that's frustrating is, as a staff, we 100% believe that our women's team and our men's team, the guys who qualified, were going to do something really special. Our women, swimming as fast as they did at conference, they were going right off their lifetime best or lifetime best unshaved. And we were like, man, they're about to blow up. And they didn't get that opportunity. And so now there's a challenge in front of us. It's like, how do you take the step forward that you were about to take, but you didn't get to take? You know what I mean? It's like, how do you internalize the success that you almost had or were about on the verge of having, but you didn't actually have it? So now it's like, well, do we just keep moving forward as if we had that success and pretend that we had it? Or do we need to kind of dial it back and take the next logical step and have that success in November of next year or whenever we get our next opportunity? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of, and that's a question that, we're still wrangling with. Mark and I are still wrangling with, and the rest of the staff. And we're figuring out the best way to kind of prepare them and motivate them and get them back on track and optimistic and excited for next year. And that's kind of where we're focused right now. So it was kind of a really gut-wrenching time. The hardest part is that it was almost like you were waiting around for an execution just because you knew that the axe was going to fall. You just didn't know when it was going to happen. I mean, it was inevitable that something was going to happen, whether it was the spectators or whether it was, something. And then it came, and it was kind of like, as coaches, I think by the time we got the news, we weren't surprised. But the swimmers, I think, were still like, there's no way that this could possibly be a reality. And at the time, it seemed so crazy, but now that we've been in it for so long and we've seen how far-reaching the ramifications of everything have been, I mean, it seems more reasonable now. I think you can kind of look back and say, well, I think it adds more perspective to what is happening in our world for sure.
Definitely. So I mean, with that perspective of what's happening in the world now,
Mm-hmm.
How are you interacting, as a coaching staff with your athletes?
So, the way that we're kind of choosing to look at this is, I don't want to be inconsiderate of anyone's struggle that they're going through in their lives right now, because I know that there are a lot of really hard things that people are dealing with and processing, whether it's financially, especially with health-wise, health of relatives, personal health, all of that stuff. I know that there's anxiety about kind of the state of the world and stuff, but at the same time, one of the things that we've really tried to kind of connect and embrace with our athletes is take this time to interact with them more as people first. And that's always been our philosophy, but it's so much now that swimming is kind of on the back burner. We've really been able to kind of dial in and focus on them and their school first of all, because A lot of them are experiencing a lot of challenges when it comes to online learning, just because that's not what they signed up for. It's like, I don't take online classes because I know I'm not good at them. And it's like, okay, well then we need to come up with some plans for you and put some routines in place that are going to help you be successful. And then at the same time, one of the things I've kind of challenged all the athletes that I've been talking to work on is I want them to first off understand that this is, if they're at home with their families, with which a lot of them are, this is probably the longest that they'll spend with their families in one place again for the rest of their lives. And that's a huge blessing. And you have to take it as such. It's like, if you're home for 6 weeks right now or 7 weeks, like once you get out of college and you go onto a job and you do all that stuff, you're never going to have a chance like this with your family ever again. And that is a blessing. You have to look at it that way. I've also challenged all of my swimmers that to find something in their lives that maybe they gave up for swimming or that they have a passion or interest for, and really invest in that. So whether that's, I've talked to a couple who've really dove into painting again, and they're like, I used to love to paint. I painted all the time and I just gave it up because of swimming. I just didn't have time for it anymore. But now I've picked it back up and I'm really enjoying it. Some people have kind of turned to basketball, and it's like, I used to play basketball all the time and I haven't done it anymore. I play basketball every day now. And then it was kind of funny. This past week, I re-upped the challenge, and I was like, who's already getting sick of the thing they picked? And some people raised their hand. I was like, okay, well, it's time to press yourself and find something else. Some people are trying to learn how to cook from their parents. I mean, it's really kind of a lot of really different cool ideas to watch people kind of venture forth into new avenues and explore some new things. The way that we have chosen to go about it as a staff is we have a group meeting, and we have divided it up based off the classes. So our freshmen have a meeting, our sophomores have a meeting, our juniors have a meeting, our seniors have a meeting. And so that is kind of an hour long. It starts off maybe with some more general points about plans and checking in with school and stuff like that. And then it's evolved every week a little bit. This was actually the first week that we really talked about swimming at all. And so we've really just been focused on them as people and their schoolwork first and coming up with some good routines. And then now we're really starting to get into kind of looking forward to next year and dreaming a little bit about what we want next year to look like and what we want to accomplish next year. And then we kind of follow those up as coaches with some individual calls throughout the week. So each kind of athlete has a group chat where they get to see their teammates and all that stuff, and then also interact with the coaches one-on-one. So.
Yeah. What do you feel like you have gained from that kind of interaction?
It's been, so we have this process that we created that, well, it started off when I was at Mizzou, and then Coach Gangloff and I have brought it here. And it's kind of like it's basically like a 6-question process to kind of create a roadmap moving forward to basically accomplish whatever it is you want to accomplish. And so the first question is what do you want to accomplish? You got to be really, and that's a hard question to answer right now, especially, but we've kind of forced all of them to do it. And it has to be kind of a performance and outcome-based focus. So times, places, all of that stuff, like you want making NCAAs, very definable measures of success. And then the second question that we ask them is why? Like, why is that your goal? Why do you want that now? And then also more globally, like, why are you swimming and why swim? Why swimming? And it's been really cool because I remember in my call on Monday where we had asked this question, one of the guys opened up and said, I've never sat down and thought about that. I've never sat down and thought about why I swim. And he's 20 years old. And it was so cool to hear kind of their reasons for why they do what they do. And that will, and have it not just be like a one-off conversation where everyone's throwing something, allowing everyone to speak for 5 minutes or 5 to 8 minutes, and then following up with them one-on-one and talking about it even more. So that was really cool. It's also, I've kind of really gotten to figure out what people really value based off of kind of where they're putting their energy right now and what's giving them energy back. So many people have talked about how much their family means to them and how they've realized that they need to connect with their family more throughout the year. And, there's been so many cool conversations about that stuff where I'm learning about people's siblings and, their family dynamics and stuff like that, where when I'm just checking in with them. And I've just been really, really grateful for all these interactions. And, it is also helping us learn what worked this year, what didn't work, what we can improve on next year as both swimmers and as a coaching staff. So it's been really, really informative and truthfully, again, these are trying times, but it also, I believe, has been a really positive experience in a lot of ways in our interactions with the athletes, and certainly I think in their interactions with us.
Yeah. So how how have you personally been spending your time outside of coaching responsibilities?
So again, kind of going back to the blessings piece of this. So I actually have a 5-month-old daughter, and especially coming off of the month of February, where I was gone for both conferences, the last chance meet, and then I was gone at the beach for our little training trip. I think over a 28-day period, I was gone for like 21 or 22 days or something like that, or at least at a meet. And so, I've really kind of used this time to really invest in her and kind of being a dad. It's really been quite amazing. My parents kind of said to me, you are getting a chance to spend more time with your daughter than most people, most dads, when they have a 5-month-old. Sorry, I got to turn this off real quick. You're hearing my baby monitor.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, she's asleep right now. And it's just been such a blessing to have that time with her. On another note, I've kind of tried to take what the same advice that I gave to the kids about trying some new things. So it has, and the other part of that in trying new things is that I've really tried to kind of invest in my relationship with my wife as well, just because we're together all the time now. And so we've tried to come up with some ways to do some different stuff together. So I've actually started doing yoga and stuff like that. And we've kind of come up with a workout routine together, which we never really used to do together, which has been nice. One of the things that I've been putting off for a while is, after I finished my dissertation, I kind of was over writing, didn't want to do it anymore, but now I've kind of started writing a book. And so that's been something that I've been spending some time doing, getting my ideas into the computer and stuff like that on a piece of paper. So, and then just making sure that I spend enough time outside and work out so that I can be happy and healthy, and just kind of taking it as an opportunity to, how often in our lives do we get to have a 6 to 8 week period where, we get to step away from what we're doing. It doesn't mean that we're not working. It just means that we step away from what our traditional routine. And when we step away, we have an opportunity to reflect and learn and grow in so many different ways, because we're not stuck in the monotony of the grind, as everyone loves to call it. Right. And, you can choose to view this as a burden and, we're getting behind and we're getting out of shape. Or you can choose to view this as a chance to have not only yourself reflect and how you can be a better coach, but also have your athletes reflect on how they can be more effective as athletes. And the way, I was telling you before we started was, it's kind of like, how many athletes do we coach who have a serious injury and they're out for 2 or 3 months, and then within a 12-month period or 9 months later, they come back and they're better than they ever were. And I believe part of the reason they're able to do that is because they're able to step away and look at things from an outside perspective and say, I make this thing too much of a big deal. Or, oh, is that what it looks like when someone's not trying, like in practice? Like, you can see it. And so having this time to kind of rediscover your why and your passion, I think is really good. And so right now with our goal setting and talking about our whys, we're kind of trying to stoke that flame so that when the athletes do come back, whenever we do get to come back, they're going to be really fired up and excited to be back and thrilled to be back in the water. And I think that that's kind of where we're at and what we're trying to do, which is awesome.
Yeah. So backing up a little bit,
Okay.
Can you explain to me what you got your dissertation in?
So I got my PhD in sports psychology.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, so while I was at Mizzou, I was also kind of the director of like mental performance for the swim team. So I was kind of in charge of all of that stuff and kind of the policies and goals that we put into place, all the mental conditioning and stuff. And it kind of, what I did changed year by year based off of what the team's needs were. But yeah, that was something I've been working on for the last, oh man, I started grad school in 2011. I didn't graduate till last year. So for 8 years. So that was a real kind of life goal that for me to complete that. There was a couple of times I wasn't sure I was ever going to get it done, but thanks to some great coaches and advisors, they kind of pushed me past the finish line, even when I wasn't ready to do it myself. So it was good.
Yeah. Have you, I guess, other than what we have already discussed, do you feel that you have been able to use, what you worked on during your dissertation in during this time?
For sure. I mean, so my dissertation was actually about coach behavior and coach education and how it impacts coaches and kind of the mechanisms through which coaches improve their coaching practice.
Mm-hmm.
And really, the number one mechanism through which coaches improve is through reflection. And so, again, having this opportunity to reflect is so critical. But in part of my dissertation, I did a review on what makes an effective coach. And so much of it is focused on this coach athlete dyad, this relationship that we have with our athletes. And so having this connection. And so, like I said, it goes back to, and this is, we were so lucky because right from the start, Coach Gangloff was like, we're not worried about swimming. Like, forget it. We're not going to force them to do dry land. We're just, if they want activity, we'll give them activity, but that's because they want it and because they feel like they need it to get outside and be active and feel good about themselves. We're going to focus on on people first, make sure that they're set up to be successful in school, and then we can move forward from there as we kind of get going, and we can start doing more swimming related stuff as the conversation evolves. So
that's pretty cool. Well, cool. Any closing thoughts you got? Maybe thoughts you've got on moving forward through this?
Well, my final thought, I guess, would really evolve around everything. When we watch the news every night because my wife is in the medical field and she loves hearing about kind of the numbers of where everything's at and how everything's being handled. And they always update what it's like on the front lines and all that stuff. And I think she really identifies with that. But when you see that stuff, it's, obviously there are some amazing people in the world that are doing some amazing things right now, but it can feel bleak at times. But I do believe that there are, kind of two lessons to learn from this in a goal. There are so many things that people are doing now that are different in order to connect with other people. So for instance, I've had Zoom calls and Google Hangouts and House Party, the app, meetings with all sorts of groups of friends that I haven't kept up with in months. I haven't talked to them in months or a year. And then all of a sudden I'm been in connection with them. I've been FaceTiming my parents at least every other day. And I've noticed how much joy that's brought me as a person. And, little things like my wife and I figuring out that, hey, we should actually go sit on our patio that we never use. And it's like, these are small things that make a big difference and can really impact our lives. And I see so many people using technology for the right reasons now, like to actually foster connections rather than just being on Instagram mindlessly scrolling, right? So I think that there are lessons to be learned that I hope we don't forget once we're back kind of into the real world of the normal grind, whatever it is. I think that there are joyful lessons that we can take. And then the other thing is that, despite all of this, I think that we do have to keep looking forward and being optimistic. So I do think that one of the things that when we were goal setting, athletes said was really hard. It's really hard to set a goal because I don't know what the future entails. I don't know what anything's going to look like. And it's like, I understand what you're saying, but we have to plan as if there's going to be a championship season next year until we know that there's not going to be a championship season next year. That's just what we have to do. And we can always make modifications to what we want, but we need to move forward optimistic and hopeful and excited for what the future can bring, and have that kind of out in front of us, knowing that it's coming and looking forward to it, rather than just constantly living in this sense of, I don't know what's coming. And that's kind of a mentality where you can get trapped pretty easily if you allow that to keep going. And again, I know that there are people going through some really hard things right now, and I really feel for those people. But for our athletes, we're really trying to kind of preach this message of optimism and hope. And I think that they're excited and really looking forward to the future. So,
well, cool.
And I have one final point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, she might cry because she's eating. Come here. So this is Finley.
Oh.
Hi, Finley. Say hi to the swimming world.
Hi, Finley.
Hi. So this has been my day in, day out. This is what I've been staying busy doing. So,
That's awesome. Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Well, that was a great closing note. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Jack.
All right. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.